The Night Reaper's breath smelled like ancient rot and ionized copper, a wet huff of air that ruffled the hair on Kalen's neck. Its 6 eyes were fixed on his throat, shivering with the anticipation of a kill. Around them, the high-born delegates of Aethelgard were a chorus of frantic clicking and high-pitched whistles, their shimmering robes snagging on the obsidian thorns as they scrambled for a safety that didn't exist. But Kalen didn't move. He didn't even blink. He just stared back, his pupils narrowing until the abyss recognized a familiar hunger in his eyes. The high-stakes excursion into the obsidian wilds had been pitched as a cultural exchange, a way for the fledgling Sol 3 systems to prove they belonged among the celestial spires. Kalen, a junior guardian with a service record longer than his shadow, had been the one chosen to walk 3 paces behind the Aethelgardian Archon. He was a courtesy, a curiosity. The ancient empire saw a species that had only recently cracked the code of FTL travel and assumed they were seeing a child. They mistook his restraint for weakness. He was simply calculating the cost. It had started 2 hours earlier, beneath the bruised purple sky of the wilds. The Aethelgardians moved with a floaty, ethereal grace, protected by a humming energy grid that turned the predatory shadows of the forest into mere scenery. They laughed at the quaint, heavy boots Kalen wore, whispering about the primitive durability of a species that still relied on physical kineticism. "Is it true?" the Archon had asked, her voice a melodic chime, "that your world is categorized as a Class 12 environmental hazard? Earth isn't a cradle, it's a forge," Kalen replied. He didn't mention the heat of the Mojave, or the bone-snapping pressure of the deep Atlantic. He didn't mention that humans were persistence predators, creatures designed to walk a target into the dirt through sheer stubborn endurance. He just watched the perimeter. Then the grid flickered. A surge of feedback from the obsidian soil heavy in rare minerals that defied Aethelgardian tech snapped the pylons. The hum died. In the sudden, suffocating quiet of the wilds, the forest breathed back. The Night Reaper didn't strike immediately. It drifted out of the trees like a bad dream made of teeth and smoke. The delegates froze, their biological defense mechanisms failing them. Their hearts beat too fast, their blood ran too hot. They were beacons of fear in a dark room. Kalen stepped forward. He didn't draw his sidearm. He didn't scream. He simply dropped his center of gravity, his boots grinding into the volcanic glass. He had been born of a Grade's lethal origin. He was the ghost in their garden, and he knew exactly what the Reaper was looking for. It wanted flight. It wanted the frantic energy of a victim. Instead, it found a statue. Kalen's heart rate actually slowed. His skin, evolved for thermoregulation that could withstand a marathon in a desert, remained cool. To the Reaper's thermal tracking, he was becoming a shadow. He took one step, then another, moving into the creature's reach. He wasn't defending, he was hunting. The Night Reaper lunged, a blur of obsidian limbs and hooked talons aimed directly at Kalen's chest. He didn't flinch. Instead, he stepped into the strike, his shoulder colliding with the beast's sternum, with the dull thud of stone hitting meat. The impact sent a shudder through his spine, but he held his ground, his fingers locking onto the coarse, oily fur of the creature's throat. The delegates gasped a collective, sharp intake of filtered air as they watched a creature of myth grapple with a man who should have been torn to ribbons. But humans weren't built for the easy kill. They were built for the long haul, for the grinding, agonizing pressure of a hunt that never ended. Kalen's grip didn't break. His muscles, dense from the high-gravity training of Earth's orbital rings, bunched and strained. He leaned in, his face inches from the Reaper's snapping jaws. He didn't growl, he didn't shout. He simply let his heart beat steady into a slow, rhythmic drum that the creature could feel through its own skin. It was the rhythm of a predator that knew its prey was already dead. It was the cold, calculated patience of a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of the chase. The Reaper's 6 eyes widened. Its pupils, designed to track the frantic movements of the panicked, couldn't process the stillness of the man holding it. The beast began to whine a low, vibrating frequency that set the obsidian trees trembling. It felt the heat radiating from Kalen's skin, a steady, relentless warmth that refused to flicker even as the temperature in the wilds plummeted. Slowly, Kalen increased the pressure. He wasn't trying to choke it. He was showing it the depth of his resolve. He was letting it feel the weight of a world that didn't know how to quit. The Reaper's legs buckled. Its talons, which could shred titanium, retracted into its paws. It recognized the hierarchy. It recognized the ghost in its garden. With a final, submissive chuff, the beast slumped. Kalen released his hold, stepping back as the legendary predator turned and vanished into the shadows of the forest, its tail tucked low. The silence that followed was absolute. The Archon stepped forward, her robes torn and her eyes wide with a new, sharp clarity. She looked at the junior guardian, this representative of a fledgling system, and realized they had misinterpreted everything. The restraint they had seen wasn't a lack of power. It was the only thing keeping the galaxy safe from the people of Sol 3. "You didn't kill it," she whispered, her voice trembling. "It wasn't worth the energy," Kalen replied, wiping a smear of black ichor from his sleeve. "We have a schedule to keep, don't we?" When the rescue shuttles finally broke the canopy, the report sent back to Eitelgard wasn't about a diplomatic failure. It was a warning. The ancient empires moved to reclassify the Sol 3 systems immediately. They didn't offer a seat out of pity or curiosity anymore. They offered it out of a deep, marrow-chilling respect. Earth was no longer a curiosity. It was a grade's lethal origin, and its guardians were now the most feared guests at the table. Kalen sat in the back of the shuttle, watching the spires of Eitelgard grow small in the distance. He checked his watch. It was almost time for dinner. Truth is, he was just getting started.